The stars were cold and distant when General Thakmor first looked at the blue planet called Earth. He stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching the small world spin slowly in the darkness of space. For 10,000 years, he had been preparing for this moment. The Valkyrie Empire was the strongest force in 7 star systems. They had conquered 43 worlds and destroyed 12 civilizations. Their ships could travel faster than light, and their weapons could burn entire cities in seconds, but Earth was different. Earth was special. General Thakmor had gray skin that looked like old metal, and eyes that glowed red in the dark. He was over 12,000 years old, but his body was still strong because of Valkyrie science. Most of his life had been spent studying one thing: how to defeat humans. The war room was filled with floating screens showing Earth's history. Thakmor watched humans fight each other with swords and arrows. He saw them build castles and tear them down. He watched them create guns and tanks and airplanes. Every battle, every war, every strategy was recorded and studied. Commander Velthos entered the room. She was younger than Thakmor, only 8,000 years old, but she was the best warrior trainer in the Empire. Her job was to make sure every Valkyrie soldier knew how to fight humans. "The training is complete," Velthos said. Her voice was rough like grinding stone. 1,000,000 warriors have practiced for 10,000 years. They know every human fighting style from ancient Rome to modern warfare. Thakmor nodded. The Valkyrie had built perfect copies of human cities. They had created holographic human armies that fought exactly like real ones. Every day for 10,000 years, Valkyrie warriors had practiced fighting these fake humans. They had won every single battle. "Show me the final test results," Thakmor ordered. The screens changed to show Valkyrie warriors fighting holographic humans. The aliens wore silver armor that could stop bullets and energy shields that glowed blue around their bodies. Their weapons shot beams of burning plasma that could melt steel. In the tests, they defeated human armies in minutes. "Our intelligence says humans use simple weapons," Velthos explained. "They shoot metal bullets from tubes, they throw explosive bombs. Very primitive compared to our technology." Thakmor had read every report about human military power. Their strongest weapons were nuclear bombs, but these were slow and clumsy. Their soldiers carried rifles that fired tiny pieces of metal. Their vehicles were slow and weak. Against Valkyrie plasma weapons and energy shields, human weapons would be useless. The general walked to another screen showing Earth's biggest cities. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and Seoul glowed like small lights on the planet's surface. Soon, all these cities would belong to the Valkyrie Empire. "The humans fight in organized groups," Thakmor said, pointing at the screen. "They have armies, with clear command structures. They follow battle plans and use standard tactics. Our warriors have trained against every human fighting style ever recorded." This was true. The Valkyrie had studied every human war from ancient times to the present. They knew about Roman legions and medieval knights. They understood modern tank battles and air force tactics. Their computers had analyzed millions of hours of human combat footage. Velthos showed him training videos of Valkyrie warriors. Each soldier was 7 feet tall and incredibly strong. Their reflexes were 10 times faster than humans. They could see in complete darkness and survive in space without breathing suits. Even without their advanced weapons, they were superior to humans in every way. "Each warrior has memorized 847,000 different battle scenarios," Velthos reported. "They know how humans will react to every possible situation. When humans see our superior technology, they will surrender quickly or die fighting in predictable patterns." The training had been perfect. Valkyrie warriors had practiced landing on fake Earth cities. They had rehearsed their conquest speeches in human languages. They knew which human leaders to capture first and which military bases to destroy. Everything was planned down to the smallest detail. General Thakmor looked at the invasion timeline. The first wave would land in major human cities simultaneously. Valkyrie warriors would announce the conquest and demand surrender. Human military forces would respond with their primitive weapons, which would be useless against Valkyrie shields. The second wave would capture government buildings and communication centers. The third wave would begin processing humans for slave labor. Diu, Entire conquest was expected to take 6 hours. The humans have no idea we exist, Velthos said with satisfaction. They think they are alone in the universe. They have never fought aliens before. They do not know what plasma weapons can do or how energy shields work. This was the Velkari's greatest advantage. Humans had only fought other humans. They had never seen technology like Velkari weapons and armor. When the invasion began, humans would be confused and terrified. They would not know how to fight back against superior alien technology. The Velkari fleet was already in position around Earth's solar system. 1,000 warships waited in the darkness between planets. Each ship carried 1,000 warriors, all perfectly trained and ready for battle. The ships themselves were invisible to human detection systems. Thakmor activated the communication system to address his entire fleet. His voice echoed through every warship as 1,000,000 Velkari warriors listened to their general's final speech. "Today we complete 10,000 years of preparation," he announced. "The planet below us represents the greatest prize in our empire's history. Earth has vast resources and perfect conditions for Velkari colonies. But more importantly, conquering Earth will prove that no species in the galaxy can resist our power." The warriors responded with a thunderous war cry that shook the metal walls of their ships. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. Every Velkari soldier knew exactly what to do when they landed on Earth's surface. "Humans are primitive and disorganized," Thakmor continued. "They have never faced an enemy like us. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their tactics are outdated and predictable. We will defeat them quickly and completely." Commander Velthos checked the final invasion preparations. Every weapon was charged and ready. Every piece of armor was polished and tested. The warriors had eaten their final meal and performed their traditional war rituals. Transport ships were loaded and waiting for the order to begin. "General, all units report ready for invasion," she announced. Thakmor looked one last time at the blue planet, spinning below them. Somewhere down there, billions of humans were living their normal lives. They had no idea that the most powerful military force in the galaxy was about to descend upon them. In a few hours, Earth would become another conquered world in the Velkari Empire. The humans would learn what it meant to face a superior species that had spent 10,000 years preparing for this exact moment. "Begin the invasion," General Thakmor ordered. The greatest military operation in galactic history was about to begin. 1,000,000 perfectly trained warriors were about to test their 10,000 years of preparation against an unsuspecting human population. The Velkari were absolutely certain they would win. They were about to discover that 10,000 years of preparation meant nothing when facing an enemy that refused to fight by any known rules. Tuesday morning in Seoul started like every other Tuesday morning for the past 5 years. Minho was already running late with his coffee delivery route, cursing under his breath as he loaded the last thermal bags onto his motorcycle. The coffee shop owner, Mrs. Park, had been extra demanding today, insisting that every order be perfect down to the foam art. 27 deliveries before noon, Minho muttered, checking his phone for the addresses. Why do people need so much coffee? Across the city, construction worker Do-Yun was starting his shift at the new office building downtown. The massive crane he operated towered over the Seoul skyline like a metal giant. He had been working construction for 15 years, and operating heavy machinery felt as natural as breathing. Today's job was moving steel beams to the 40th floor. "Another day, another building," Do-Hyun said to his co-worker Sang-hoon as they checked the crane systems. "At least the weather is nice." The morning sun was bright and clear, perfect for outdoor work. Do-Hyun climbed into the crane's control cabin, running through his safety checklist like he did every morning. Start the engine, check the hydraulics, test the radio communications. Everything was normal. In the elementary school across town, teacher Soman was preparing her classroom for another day of teaching second graders. She arranged colorful picture books on the reading table and wrote the day's lesson plan on the whiteboard. Her 28 students would arrive in an hour, full of energy and endless questions. "Today we're learning about different animals," she said to herself, pinning pictures of lions and elephants to the bulletin board. "I hope they remember to bring their homework." Salman had been teaching for 8 years and loved working with children. Every day brought new challenges and surprises. Her students were curious about everything and always made her laugh with their innocent observations about the world. At the military base on the outskirts of Seoul, Sergeant Jinwoo was conducting morning training exercises with his unit. 20. Soldiers were practicing rifle drills in the courtyard, their movements sharp and precise. The sound of boots marching in unison echoed off the concrete walls. "Keep your formations tight," Jinwoo shouted to his men. In a real battle, discipline saves lives. His soldiers were young but well-trained. They carried standard assault rifles and wore basic combat gear. Nothing fancy or high-tech, just reliable equipment that had served the Korean military for decades. Today's exercise was routine weapons maintenance and target practice. Lieutenant Hyejin sat in the base's radar monitoring room, watching green dots move across circular screens. Her job was to track aircraft entering Korean airspace and identify any potential threats. It was usually boring work. Most days she saw only commercial airliners and the occasional military training flight. "All clear in sectors 7 through 12, she reported to Colonel Taehoon over the radio. No unusual activity detected. The radar screens showed normal air traffic patterns. A few passenger jets were approaching Incheon Airport, and a cargo plane was heading toward Busan. Everything looked exactly like it should on a typical Tuesday morning. Downtown, Mechanic Bora was already elbow-deep in a truck engine, trying to fix a stubborn transmission problem. Her small garage was cluttered with tools and spare parts. Oil stains covered the concrete floor, and the smell of motor oil hung heavy in the air. "Come on, you piece of junk," she grumbled, wrestling with a wrench that wouldn't turn. "Just cooperate for once." Bora had inherited the garage from her father and had been fixing vehicles for 12 years. She could diagnose engine problems by sound and repair almost anything with 4 wheels. Her customers trusted her completely because she never charged more than necessary and always did quality work. At the factory on the edge of the city, Seokmin was operating the hydraulic press that shaped metal parts for automobiles. The machine was loud and powerful, capable of bending steel with thousands of pounds of pressure. He had been working the same job for 6 years and could operate the equipment with his eyes closed. Production quota is 150 pieces. Today, his supervisor announced during the morning briefing. "Quality control is checking everything, so be careful." Seokmin nodded and put on his safety equipment. The factory floor was always noisy with the sound of machines working. Workers moved efficiently between stations, each person focused on their specific task. It was repetitive work, but it paid well and provided steady employment. Meanwhile, Nurse Na-young was beginning her shift at Seoul National Hospital. She checked patient charts and prepared medications for the morning rounds. The hospital was busy, but not unusually so for a Tuesday. A few emergency cases had come in overnight, but nothing her experienced staff couldn't handle. "Room 302 needs pain medication at 10 o'clock, she noted on her schedule. "And the patient in 318 is being discharged this afternoon." Na-young had been a nurse for 10 years and had seen everything from minor injuries to major emergencies. She was calm under pressure and genuinely cared about helping people recover from illness and injury. Her patients often said she had healing hands and a comforting presence. None of these ordinary people had any idea that massive alien warships were positioning themselves in the dark space beyond Earth's atmosphere. They didn't know that 1 million highly trained warriors were preparing to invade their planet. They had no concept of energy shields or plasma weapons or species that had spent 10,000 years planning their conquest. Minho delivered coffee to his first 3 customers, right on schedule. The office workers thanked him and hurried back to their desks to start their workday. He had 24 more deliveries to make before noon. Do-hyun successfully moved the first steel beam into position on the 40th floor. The construction project was ahead of schedule, and his boss was pleased with the progress. He had 47 more beams to move before the end of his shift. Salmon's students arrived at school chattering excitedly about a nature documentary they had watched on television. They were full of questions about elephants and wanted to know if they could visit a zoo soon. She smiled and promised to plan a field trip if they all finished their homework on time. Sergeant Jinwoo's soldiers completed their rifle drills without any mistakes. Their accuracy scores were improving, and he was proud of their progress. Next, they would practice tactical formations and communication procedures. Lieutenant Hyejin continued monitoring her radar screens, sipping coffee and occasionally talking with other personnel in the control room. The morning remained quiet with only routine air traffic appearing on her displays. Bora finally got the stubborn truck transmission working properly. The owner would be happy to get his vehicle back in good condition. She moved on to her next repair job, a sedan with brake problems that needed immediate attention. Shukman produced his first batch of metal parts ahead of schedule. The quality control inspector approved every piece, complimenting him on his precise work. He felt good about starting the day so successfully. Nurse Nayung finished her morning medication rounds and updated patient charts. Everyone was stable, and the emergency room was surprisingly calm for a Tuesday morning. She hoped it would stay that way throughout her 12-hour shift. All across Earth, 7 billion humans were living their normal lives. They went to work, attended school, fixed machines, built buildings, and cared for each other. They worried about ordinary problems like traffic jams and grocery shopping and paying bills. None of them knew that their ordinary Tuesday was about to become the most extraordinary day in human history. Above them, invisible alien warships were beginning their final approach to Earth's atmosphere. The invasion was about to begin. The first sign that something was wrong came from Lieutenant Hyejin's radar screens. At exactly 11:47 a.m. Seoul time, her equipment started showing impossible readings. Objects were appearing in Earth's atmosphere that moved faster than any known aircraft. "Colonel Taehoon, I'm getting some very strange readings here," she called over the radio, staring at her screens in confusion. "Multiple contacts approaching at speeds over Mach 15. That's impossible for conventional aircraft." The green dots on her screen were moving in perfect formation, descending through the atmosphere like a coordinated attack. But no country on Earth had aircraft capable of such speed and precision. Hyejin checked her equipment twice, thinking there must be a malfunction. "Run diagnostics on all systems," Colonel Taehoon ordered. "Check for interference or equipment failure." But the diagnostics showed everything working perfectly. The objects were real and they were getting closer to Seoul. Similar reports were coming in from radar stations around the world. Tokyo, New York, London, Moscow, and dozens of other cities were reporting the same impossible readings. At the construction site, Do-hyun was moving another steel beam when he noticed something blocking the sun. He looked up and saw a massive shadow passing over the city. At first he thought it might be a very large airplane, but the shadow was too big and moved too slowly. "What the hell is that?" he asked Sang-hoon, pointing up at the sky. Other construction workers stopped their jobs to look up. Above Seoul, something enormous was descending through the clouds. It was the size of a city district and completely silent. The object was dark gray with smooth surfaces that reflected no light. "That's not one of ours," Sang-hoon said nervously. "That's not from any country I know about." The massive object settled into a hover position directly over downtown Seoul. Similar ships were appearing over other major cities around the world. Each one was identical, huge, silent, and clearly not built by human hands. Minho was delivering coffee to an office building when people started running out onto the streets, pointing up at the sky. He followed their gaze and nearly dropped his thermal delivery bag. A spacecraft the size of a shopping mall was floating in the air above him. "This has got to be a movie shoot," he said to himself. "This can't be real." But there were no cameras or film crews anywhere. Just ordinary people staring in amazement and fear at the impossible sight above them. Some people were taking pictures with their phones. Others were calling their families. A few were already running toward the subway stations. At her school, teacher Salman heard screaming from the playground. She rushed to the window and saw parents arriving to pick up their children early. The giant spacecraft was visible even from inside the building, casting a shadow over the entire school. "Children, please stay calm," she told her second-grade class, though her own voice was shaking. "Let's move away from the windows and sit in the reading corner." Her students were frightened but trusted her completely. They huddled together while Soman tried to figure out what to do. The school's emergency procedures had never covered alien spacecraft appearing over the city. On the military base, alarms were blaring as soldiers ran to their positions. Sergeant Jinwoo's training exercises were forgotten as real emergency protocols went into effect. His men grabbed their rifles and ammunition, preparing for something they had never trained to fight. All units to defensive positions, Colonel Tehun announced over the base's communication system. Unknown aircraft over Seoul. Treat as potential hostile contact. But their weapons seemed laughably inadequate against something so massive. The spacecraft hovering over the city could probably destroy their entire base with a single weapon discharge. Jinwoo felt helpless as he watched his soldiers prepare their standard rifles against an enemy with clearly superior technology. Inside, the alien flagship General Thakmor was pleased with the perfect execution of their arrival. All ships had reached their assigned positions simultaneously, without being detected until the last moment. The element of surprise was complete. Human military forces are scrambling, reported Commander Velthos, monitoring Earth's communication channels. Their radio transmissions indicate panic and confusion. They have no idea what kind of technology they're facing. This was exactly what the Velkari had expected. Humans had never encountered alien technology before. They would be terrified and disorganized, making them easy to conquer. The invasion plan was proceeding perfectly. Begin deployment of the first wave, General Thakmor ordered. 10,000 warriors to each major city. Standard formation, full battle equipment. Across the Velkari fleet, transport bays opened and smaller ships began descending toward Earth's surface. Each transport carried 100 heavily armed warriors wearing silver armor and energy shields. Their plasma weapons were charged and ready for battle. In Seoul, the first alien transport ship landed in the middle of the downtown business district. The ship touched down in an intersection, crushing several cars under its weight. Steam hissed from its landing thrusters as a ramp extended from its side. Minho was still standing on the sidewalk with his coffee delivery when the aliens emerged from their ship. They were 7 feet tall with gray skin and red eyes. Their armor was smooth silver metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Energy shields surrounded each warrior like blue bubbles. The lead alien, Warrior Korveth, activated his translation device and raised his plasma weapon. He had practiced this moment thousands of times in training simulations. The conquest declaration would terrify the humans and make them surrender immediately. Humans of this world, Korveth announced in perfect Korean, his voice amplified so everyone could hear. You are now subjects of the Velkari Empire. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Your technology is inferior to ours. Surrender immediately and you will not be harmed. Minho stared at the alien for several seconds, processing what he had just heard. A 7-foot-tall gray alien in silver armor was telling him to surrender. The creature held a weapon that glowed with energy and was protected by some kind of force field. This was clearly the most dangerous situation Minho had ever faced in his 28 years of life. Any reasonable person would run away or hide. Any smart person would do exactly what the alien said and surrender peacefully. Instead, Minho threw his hot coffee directly at the alien's face and shouted, "Call the police!" before running as fast as he could toward the subway entrance. Warrior Korveth stood perfectly still as the hot liquid splashed harmlessly off his energy shield. This was not in any of the 847,000 battle scenarios he had memorized. Humans were supposed to either surrender immediately or attack with primitive weapons in predictable patterns. They were not supposed to throw beverages and run away while yelling for law enforcement. The alien looked around in confusion as more humans began reacting to the invasion. Some were running and screaming, which was expected, but others were doing things that made no tactical sense whatsoever. An elderly woman hit an alien warrior with her purse. A businessman tried to take a selfie with the invaders. 3 teenagers on skateboards were circling the landing site like they were planning something. A man in a business suit was arguing with an alien about parking regulations. None of these responses appeared in any Velkari training manual. Across the city, similar scenes were playing out as more alien transports landed. Construction worker Dohyun saw aliens deploying near his building site and immediately swung his crane's massive wrecking ball toward their ship. The ball bounced harmlessly off the aliens' energy shields, but the impact disrupted their perfect formation. The warriors stumbled and had to regroup, something that had never happened in their thousands of practice sessions. Teacher Soman broke her classroom windows and started lowering her students down the emergency fire escape, shouting instructions. to other teachers about evacuation routes that didn't exist in any manual. Mechanic Bora began throwing wrenches at nearby aliens while yelling suggestions about their equipment's apparent weaknesses to anyone who would listen. At the military base, Sergeant Jinwoo and his soldiers opened fire with their standard rifles. The bullets bounced off alien energy shields exactly as expected, but the humans immediately started using the ricochets to attack aliens from behind where their shields seemed weaker. General Thakmor watched the reports coming in from his ground forces with growing confusion. The humans were not responding according to any known pattern of warfare. They seemed to be making up their tactics as they went along. This was not how conquests were supposed to begin. By the second minute of the invasion, General Thakmor realized something was terribly wrong. His perfectly trained warriors were reporting situations that made no sense according to 10,000 years of military planning. "Sir, the humans are not following standard defensive protocols," Commander Velthos reported, her voice filled with confusion. "They're responding in completely unpredictable ways." On the main screen, Thakmor watched feeds from various invasion sites around the world. In Seoul, construction worker Do Hyun had turned his crane into an improvised weapon, swinging the wrecking ball at alien formations. The attacks weren't effective against their shields, but they were disrupting carefully planned battle formations. Report from Tokyo sector. Came a transmission from ground forces. Human civilians are using vehicles as projectiles. A small truck was just launched at our position using some kind of construction equipment. Thakmor paused the video feed and studied it carefully. A human in work clothes was operating a piece of heavy machinery, using it to literally throw a pickup truck at Velkari warriors. The truck bounced harmlessly off their energy shields, but the alien formation scattered in surprise. "This is not standard military behavior," Velthos observed. "Our intelligence reports indicated humans fight in organized units with clear command structures. But the humans weren't fighting in organized units. They were improvising individual responses that made no tactical sense, but somehow worked together in chaotic harmony. In London, office workers were dropping furniture from high windows onto alien positions. In New York, taxi drivers were using their cars to ram alien transports." The feed from Seoul showed teacher Somin leading a group of children through broken windows and down fire escapes that shouldn't have been safe to use. She was evacuating an entire school using methods that violated every safety protocol, but somehow got everyone to safety. "The humans appear to be completely insane," reported one ground commander. "They're not responding to superior technology with fear or submission. They're treating our invasion force like a problem to be solved with creative engineering." This was exactly what Thakmor feared most. The Velkari military doctrine was based on overwhelming technological superiority, causing enemy forces to surrender or fight in predictable patterns. But humans weren't surrendering, and they weren't following any predictable patterns. In Seoul, Mechanic Bora had somehow convinced other civilian mechanics to help her analyze alien technology. They were studying fallen alien equipment and sharing information about potential weak points. Within minutes, they had figured out that Velkari energy shields had a brief recharge delay after deflecting impacts. "Hit them rapid fire," Bora shouted to nearby civilians. "Don't give the shields time to recharge." This information spread through the city faster than Velkari communications could track. Humans with no military training were developing effective tactics against advanced alien technology by simply experimenting and sharing results. Meanwhile, Sergeant Jinwoo had reorganized his soldiers to take advantage of the shield recharge delay that civilians had discovered. His unit was coordinating with construction workers, mechanics, and even delivery drivers to create synchronized attacks that overwhelmed alien defenses. "Squad leaders, listen carefully," Jinwoo radioed to his men. "The civilians figured out how to beat their shields. We need to coordinate with everyone around us, not just military units." This was unprecedented in Velkari experience. Enemy forces were supposed to fight within their own command structures. They weren't supposed to instantly coordinate with civilian populations to develop new tactics in real time. The situation became even more confusing when factory worker Seokman started using his industrial equipment as weapons. The hydraulic press that shaped metal car parts was now being used to launch projectiles at alien positions. Other factory workers quickly copied his innovation, turning entire manufacturing districts into improvised artillery positions. They're weaponizing their industrial infrastructure, Velthos reported in amazement. Manufacturing equipment is being converted to military use within minutes of first contact. Nurse Nayung had perhaps the most unusual response to the invasion. She organized hospital staff to treat wounded aliens, then interviewed them about their technology and tactics while they recovered. The injured Velkari warriors found themselves being interrogated by medical personnel who used healing as a psychological warfare technique. "We're helping you recover from your injuries," Nayung explained to a confused alien warrior while checking his vital signs. "Can you tell me more about how your weapons work? We want to understand your technology so we can help you better." The UI warrior, trained for combat but not for being questioned by enemy medical staff, found himself explaining Velkari military procedures to the very humans he was supposed to be conquering. General Thakmor received increasingly bizarre reports from his ground forces. In Moscow, humans were using subway systems as underground military highways. In Tokyo, elderly citizens were distributing homemade explosives from shopping carts. In London, school children were flying toy drones equipped with improvised weapons. "Sir, we're encountering organized resistance from enemy forces that have no military training or coordination," reported a ground commander from New York. "They seem to be making up tactics that we've never seen before and sharing them instantly across their entire population." The most disturbing report came from the Seoul combat zone. Delivery driver Minho had organized other motorcycle delivery drivers into a fast-moving harassment unit. They were using their knowledge of city streets to conduct hit-and-run attacks that appeared and disappeared before Velkari forces could respond. "The enemy is using food delivery networks as a military communication system," the Seoul commander reported. "They know every street, every shortcut, every hiding place in the city. Our forces can't predict their movements." By the third minute, Velkari casualties were starting to mount. Not because human weapons were superior, but because human tactics were completely unpredictable. Every Velkari response was countered by some impossible human improvisation that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. Construction worker Do-hyun had coordinated with other crane operators across the city to create a network of mobile heavy equipment. They were using construction cranes like giant arms to grab alien transports and shake them until the warriors inside were too dizzy to fight effectively. "They're treating our military vehicles like construction equipment," one Velkari pilot reported while his ship was being lifted and shaken by a crane. "This is not covered in any tactical manual." Teacher Somin had established communication with other schools and was coordinating citywide civilian evacuations using routes that only local residents knew about. Her network of teachers, parents, and students was moving thousands of people to safety faster than Velkari forces could track them. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't understand it was supposed to lose. Humans responded to superior alien technology, not with fear or respect, but with curiosity and immediate attempts to reverse engineer everything they could see. Mechanic Bora had already figured out how to disable alien communication equipment using tools from her garage. Factory worker Seokmin had invented 3 different ways to jam alien weapons using industrial machinery. Nurse Nayung was learning alien anatomy from wounded prisoners and sharing the information with anyone who would listen. Most disturbing of all, the humans seemed to be enjoying themselves. Video feeds showed civilians laughing while throwing improvised weapons at alien positions. Children were treating the invasion like an exciting game. Adults were high-fiving each other when their crazy plans actually worked. "Sir, I don't think the humans understand that they're being invaded," Commander Velthos said hesitantly. "They seem to think this is some kind of challenge or puzzle to be solved." General Thakmor watched his carefully planned invasion dissolve into complete chaos. His warriors were trained to fight organized military forces following predictable tactical doctrines. They were not prepared to face an entire planet of creative problem solvers who treated alien invasion as an opportunity for improvisation. The 4th minute of the invasion began with reports that human resistance was actually getting stronger instead of weaker. Instead of being overwhelmed by superior technology, humans were adapting to it faster than Velkari forces could adapt to human unpredictability. "All units, prepare for tactical withdrawal," Thakmor ordered reluctantly. This was supposed to be the moment of greatest triumph in Velkari military history. Instead, it was becoming the most confusing defeat any general had ever experienced. By the 4th minute of the invasion, the impossible was happening. The most advanced military force in galactic history was losing to an enemy that didn't even understand they were in a war. Humans were treating the alien invasion like a citywide engineering problem that needed creative solutions. Lieutenant Hijin had taken control of the military response, but she quickly realized that conventional tactics were less effective than the complete chaos civilians were creating. Her radar screens showed alien formations breaking apart as humans responded with increasingly bizarre improvised attacks. "Colonel, the civilian population is actually more effective than our trained soldiers," she reported to Colonel Taehoon. "They're not following any military doctrine, which means the aliens can't predict their actions." This was becoming obvious to everyone involved. Sergeant Jinwoo's well-trained soldiers were having moderate success using standard military tactics, but delivery driver Minho's motorcycle network was causing far more disruption to alien operations. Minho had discovered that the city's food delivery drivers knew Seoul better than any military unit. They could navigate through traffic, use shortcuts that didn't appear on any maps, and coordinate with each other using apps designed for tracking food orders. Within minutes, they had turned the entire delivery network into a real-time intelligence system. "Aliens landing near Gangnam Station," Minho reported through his delivery app's group chat. "Taehyun, can you get there in 3 minutes? Bring more coffee to throw at them." The delivery drivers were sharing information faster than military radio networks. They knew which streets were blocked, where aliens were concentrating their forces, and which routes were safe for civilian evacuation. Their knowledge of the city was proving more valuable than satellite intelligence. Construction worker Do-hyun had made an even more important discovery. He realized that Seoul's construction sites contained heavy machinery that could be coordinated across the entire city. Crane operators could communicate with each other using construction site radios to create a network of giant mechanical arms. "All crane operators, this is Do-hyun," he broadcast on the construction frequency. "We've got aliens trying to take our city. Let's show them what Korean construction workers can do." Within minutes, dozens of construction cranes were working together like a giant mechanical defense system. They grabbed alien transports, blocked alien movements with steel beams, and created barriers using construction materials. The aliens found themselves fighting against the entire construction industry of Seoul, but the most effective human response was happening in the small auto repair garage where mechanic Bora had turned her workshop into a research laboratory. She was studying captured alien equipment with the same systematic approach she used to diagnose car problems. "Their energy shields recharge every 2.3 seconds, she announced to a growing crowd of curious civilians. "Their plasma weapons overheat after 12 consecutive shots. And their communication devices use a frequency we can jam with modified car radios." Bora's mechanical expertise was perfectly suited to reverse engineering alien technology. She understood how energy systems worked, how to identify weak points in equipment, and how to modify existing technology for new purposes. Her garage became the unofficial headquarters for human technological adaptation. "Bring me any alien equipment you can find," she told the volunteers who were gathering around her workspace. "Also bring car batteries, welding equipment, and anything electronic you can carry. We're going to figure out how to fight back properly." Other mechanics across the city heard about Bora's discoveries through social media and started copying her methods. Auto repair shops, electronics stores, and industrial workshops became impromptu research centers where ordinary people studied alien technology and developed countermeasures. Teacher Somin had made her own crucial contribution to the human response. She realized that Seoul's school system was perfectly designed for coordinating large-scale evacuations. Teachers knew how to manage groups of people, parents knew every neighborhood, and children could fit through spaces too small for adults. "All teachers, listen carefully," she broadcast on the education department's emergency frequency. "We need to get people to safety, but not through the main roads. Use the evacuation routes we practice for fire drills, but connect them across the whole city." The school system became a civilian command network that moved thousands of people, Away from alien landing sites, teachers coordinated with each other like military officers, parents served as scouts and messengers, and children helped adults navigate through tight spaces and hidden passages. Factory worker Seokmin had perhaps the most impressive response to the invasion. He realized that Seoul's manufacturing district contained equipment that could be weaponized more effectively than any military arsenal. Industrial hydraulic systems, metal shaping machinery, and automated assembly lines could all be modified to create improvised weapons. "We build cars, computers, and appliances," he announced to his fellow factory workers. "We can definitely build something to fight aliens." The manufacturing district transformed into a weapons production center operated by people who understood industrial processes better than any military engineer. They created projectile launchers from hydraulic presses, developed jamming devices from electronic assembly equipment, and produced improvised armor using metal shaping tools. Most remarkably, all of these separate human responses were beginning to coordinate with each other without any central command. Social media, delivery apps, construction radios, school communication systems, and factory networks were sharing information and resources in real time. Nurse Nayoung had established the most unusual aspect of human resistance. Her hospital had become an alien prisoner of war facility, where wounded Velkari warriors were treated with medical care while being systematically questioned about their technology and tactics. "We're not torturing them," she explained to other medical staff. "We're providing excellent medical treatment and asking friendly questions about their equipment while we help them recover." The injured aliens found themselves in an impossible situation. They were receiving better medical care than they would get from their own military, but they were also being interviewed by humans who used their natural healing instincts to gather intelligence. The wounded warriors started volunteering information, just because the medical staff was so genuinely concerned about their well-being. General Thakmor watched his invasion collapse in ways that defied every principle of military science. His reports showed that humans were not only resisting effectively, but were actually enjoying the challenge of fighting superior alien technology. "Sir, the humans appear to be treating our invasion as a learning opportunity," Commander Velthos reported with obvious confusion. "They're studying our equipment, adapting our tactics, and sharing information faster than we can counter their responses." Video feeds from around the world showed similar patterns. In every major city, ordinary humans were using their professional skills and local knowledge to create improvised resistance networks that were far more effective than conventional military responses. In Tokyo, sushi chefs were using their knife skills to disable alien equipment with surgical precision. In New York, taxi drivers were coordinating traffic patterns to trap alien forces in gridlock. In London, pub owners were organizing neighborhood defense networks using their customer relationships and local connections. The most disturbing aspect of the human response was that it was getting stronger with every passing minute. Instead of being demoralized by alien technology, humans were becoming more creative and more coordinated as they learned from their initial successes. "They're not fighting us," Thakmor realized with growing horror. "They're solving us. They think we're a puzzle to be figured out rather than an enemy to be feared." This insight explained everything. Humans weren't responding to the invasion with traditional military thinking. They were approaching it like engineers, mechanics, teachers, and problem solvers. They were treating the most advanced alien technology in the galaxy like any other technical challenge that needed creative solutions. By the end of the 4th minute, the Velkari invasion force was in complete disarray. Their perfectly trained warriors were scattered across Earth's cities, facing resistance from an enemy that refused to follow any known rules of warfare. The 5th minute of the invasion was about to begin, and General Thakmor faced the most humiliating decision in Velkari military history. As the 5th and final minute of the invasion began, General Thakmor faced an impossible reality. The most carefully planned military operation in galactic history was collapsing because humans refused to be conquered in any logical way. His Yao command screen showed Velkari warriors scattered across Earth's cities, not because they were being defeated by superior weapons, but because they couldn't predict what humans would do next. Every tactical response was countered by some impossible human improvisation that made no military sense but somehow worked perfectly. "Sir, we're receiving reports of complete tactical breakdown in all sectors," Commander Velthos announced, her voice filled with disbelief. "The humans have figured out how to exploit every weakness in our equipment and tactics. This was true in ways that violated everything the Velkari understood about warfare. In Seoul, Mechanic Bora had established a network of auto repair shops that were reverse engineering alien technology faster than Velkari engineers had originally developed it. We've figured out how to jam their communications, overload their shields, and disable their weapons," Bora announced to the growing crowd of volunteers at her garage. "Just give me 15 more minutes and I'll show you how to reprogram their transport ships." Construction worker Do Hyun had coordinated Seoul's construction industry into a citywide mechanical defense system. Cranes were working together like giant robots, creating barriers and grabbing alien equipment with precision that amazed even the operators themselves. "This is better than playing video games." Do Hyun laughed as he used his crane to carefully lift an alien transport and set it down in a parking lot where civilians could study it safely. "Who knew construction work would prepare us to fight aliens?" Teacher Soman had organized the evacuation of over 30,000 civilians using school networks and parent volunteers. Her improvised command structure was moving people to safety more efficiently than military evacuation protocols. "All teachers, excellent work," she broadcast to her network. "Children are reporting that the aliens look confused and scared. I think we're winning." This observation was more accurate than she realized. Velkari warriors were indeed confused and scared, not because humans had superior weapons, but because human behavior was completely unpredictable and seemingly insane. Factory worker Seokmin had turned Seoul's manufacturing district into a weapons production facility that was creating improvised anti-alien devices faster than Velkari forces could adapt to them. Industrial workers were treating the invasion like a quality control problem that needed systematic solutions. "Production target, 50 alien jammers per hour," he announced to his factory crew. "Quality control says our improvised weapons are more effective than we originally designed them to be." But the most devastating human response came from delivery driver Minho and his motorcycle network. They had turned the city's food delivery system into a real-time intelligence and communication network that gave humans perfect information about alien movements. "Aliens retreating from Gangnam District," Minho reported through his delivery app. "They look like they're heading back to their big ships. Should we follow them and see where they go?" The delivery drivers were treating the alien retreat like a customer service problem, wanting to make sure the aliens found their way safely back to their transportation. General Thakmor watched his invasion force being systematically dismantled by an enemy that approached warfare like a technical challenge. Humans were studying Velkari equipment, copying their tactics, and improving on their technology in real time. "They're not just resisting us," he realized with growing horror. "They're absorbing everything we know and making it better." This was exactly what was happening. Nurse Nayoung's medical interviews with wounded aliens had provided humans with detailed information about Velkari anatomy, psychology, and technology. She was treating alien prisoners so well that they were voluntarily explaining how their equipment worked. "The aliens are actually quite nice once you get to know them," she explained to other medical staff while treating a Velkari warrior's minor injuries. "This one just showed me how their plasma weapons work. Apparently they have 17 different safety settings we didn't know about." Lieutenant Hyejin had coordinated the military response with civilian networks to create a hybrid command structure that was far more effective than pure military tactics. Professional soldiers were working with mechanics, teachers, construction workers, and delivery drivers to create a defense system that no military academy had ever conceived. "Colonel, I recommend we officially integrate civilian networks into our command structure," she reported to Colonel Taehoon. "They're more effective at fighting aliens than our trained soldiers." Sergeant Jinwoo had reached the same conclusion. His military unit was most effective when coordinating with civilian improvisers who approached combat like a creative problem-solving exercise. "Men, forget everything you learned in training," he told his soldiers. "These civilians are showing us how to really fight." follow their lead and try to think like mechanics and construction workers instead of soldiers. By this point in the invasion, Valkyrie casualties were mounting rapidly, not from superior human weapons but from complete tactical confusion. Alien warriors trained for 10,000 years to fight predictable enemies found themselves helpless against opponents who made up new tactics every few minutes. "Sir, our forces are reporting that humans are now helping each other repair and improve our captured equipment," Velthos announced in amazement. "They're making our technology work better than we designed it." This was the final humiliation. Humans were not only defeating Valkyrie technology, but were improving it and sharing the improvements with anyone who was interested. Bora's garage had become a research center where alien plasma weapons were being modified to work more efficiently, and the modifications were being shared on social media for other humans to copy. "Full retreat, all units," General Thakmor ordered, as alien casualties reached unacceptable levels. "Emergency departure protocols maximum speed." The retreat order came exactly 4 minutes and 57 seconds after the invasion began. It was the shortest military campaign in Valkyrie history, and certainly the most humiliating. Valkyrie warriors began emergency teleportation back to their ships, many carrying injuries from improvised human weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate their armor. They retreated in complete disorder, abandoning equipment and vehicles that humans immediately began studying and copying. Delivery driver Minho was still throwing coffee at retreating aliens as they teleported away. "Hey, don't forget your weapons," he shouted cheerfully. "We figured out how to make them work better." Construction worker Do Yun waved goodbye with his crane as alien ships began lifting off. "Come back any time," he called. "Next time we'll have better equipment ready." Teacher Soman was organizing her students to wave goodbye to the departing aliens. "Children, let's thank the visitors for the interesting learning experience," she announced. "Maybe they'll visit again when we're better prepared to welcome them properly." The massive alien ships departed Earth's atmosphere in emergency formation, leaving behind scattered equipment, confused reports, and a human population that was already planning improvements for next time. General Thakmor sat in his command chair as his fleet escaped to hyperspace, trying to understand what had gone wrong. His perfectly trained warriors had been defeated by an enemy that treated warfare like a community hobby project. "Sir, how do we report this to the High Command?" Commander Velthos asked hesitantly. Thakmor considered the question carefully. How could he explain that the most advanced military force in the galaxy had been defeated by humans who approached alien invasion like a technical challenge that needed creative solutions? Report that Earth's population is clinically insane, he decided finally. Recommend immediate classification as unconquerable. These humans are too dangerous to engage in military operations. The Valkyrie fleet continued its retreat while Earth's population returned to their normal Tuesday activities. Most humans assumed the brief alien visit had been some kind of elaborate movie production or military exercise. Minho finished his coffee delivery route only 20 minutes behind schedule. Do-hyun completed moving steel beams to the 40th floor of his construction project. Soman taught her students about the importance of teamwork and creative problem-solving. None of them realized they had just become the galaxy's most feared military force by simply applying their professional skills and natural human stubbornness to the challenge of alien invasion. The Valkyrie returned to their empire and immediately classified Earth as unconquerable, population exhibits dangerous unpredictability. Other alien civilizations who heard about the 5-minute invasion quietly added Earth to their do not invade under any circumstances lists. Humanity continued living their ordinary lives, completely unaware that they were now known throughout the galaxy as the unpredictable ones, a species too creatively insane to be conquered by any conventional military force. Sometimes the best defense against superior technology is being so completely unpredictable that your enemies can't plan for anything you might do. The humans had won not through superior weapons or tactics,